Democrats really need to cut loose the celebrities. They're not helping. They don't strike people as normal because they're fucking not. Democrats already have a problem with people thinking that they are not the common sense crowd. And then when they see, the Chapel Roan, I talked about him. You say you watch it. You must have seen this. The first show is talking about this woman who is his, I said, how do I know he's a communist? Well, I'm reading between the lines when he hired someone who says, word for word, let's elect more communists. Okay, if you look at this, is not like, you want to know why people vote for Trump? That's why. Your shitty attitude is a real turnoff.
Something strange happened at the Oscars, and it wasn't part of the show. One moment, everything looked normal, cameras rolling, celebrities reacting, the usual Hollywood atmosphere. Then Bill Maher said it, and the entire room changed. No applause, no laughter, no pushback, just silence. That uncomfortable kind of silence where everyone suddenly realizes they're not in control of the moment anymore. Because what Maher said wasn't just a comment, it hit something deeper. Something the room wasn't prepared to deal with live on air. And in seconds, the energy collapsed. Not into debate, not into disagreement, but into complete stillness. Like the entire Oscars crowd just froze, trying to process what they had just heard. And that's where things get interesting. Because this wasn't just another celebrity moment. This was a room full of Hollywood elites, going silent in real time.
Third election. Everyone knows what I'm talking about here. I was watching late at night the returns, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't think Trump was going to win. I live in California. I didn't think he was going to win. From what I was hearing.
I didn't either.
He was going to win.
No,
this is where I live,
Yeah.
I said something along the lines of like, there was no planning, this is what they get, there should have been a primary. I said something along those lines, Like I was just spitballing ideas as to, it was a shock, My wife and daughters, without saying anything, became physical with me. They were filled with rage. So if I am being careful with you in how I say things, yes, I live in California. I live with not one, not two, but three people who, if I made any kind of joke, they would, they'd become very angry with me, So
I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but I couldn't live that way. I would, whatever household or whatever situation I'm in, I say what I truly think, and if it makes you angry, I'm sorry, we'll have to work that out.
Well, it makes...
But I am not going to tuck my tail between my legs.
Now, on the surface, this looks like just another Bill Maher hot take at an awards event. But it's not that simple, because Maher isn't coming in as an outsider attacking Hollywood. He's one of them, a lifelong liberal, a mainstream voice from inside the same cultural space that built the modern entertainment political machine. And that's exactly what makes this moment different. When someone like Bill Maher starts openly questioning Hollywood's political obsession, it's not just criticism anymore. It's internal pressure. It signals something bigger is shifting inside the very group that has controlled cultural narratives for years. For a long time, Hollywood and progressive politics moved like one system. Celebrities endorsed, media amplified, award shows reinforced the message. But now, even voices from inside that system are starting to push back. And that's why this moment matters. Because what happened at the Oscars wasn't just about one comment or one reaction. It exposed a growing fracture inside a cultural machine that used to look completely unified. And once that unity starts breaking, everything starts to sound different.
Democrats really need to cut loose the celebrities. They're not helping. They don't strike people as normal because they're fucking not. Democrats already have a problem with people thinking that they are not the common sense crowd. And then when they see, the Chapel Roan and the Billie Eilishes of the world who don't act like normal people, and then whatever they're saying just strikes everybody in America who's a normal person as, oh God,
all right,
here's more of this stuff where you can't relate to a real...
And here's where this gets uncomfortable for the people watching it happen. Because Bill Maher didn't come in as some right-wing critic. He didn't walk in there trying to attack Hollywood from the outside. He's speaking as someone who has defended this world for years. And now, he's questioning it out loud. That's what makes this shift so explosive. When critics on the outside attack Hollywood, it's expected. it gets dismissed, it gets labeled, it gets brushed off. But when someone from inside the same ideological lane starts pointing out the cracks, it lands differently. Maher's tone in moments like this isn't angry, it's not partisan. It's almost disappointed. Like he's watching something he used to believe in start to lose its grip on reality. And that's exactly the pattern we're seeing more and more now. Not just disagreement, but internal pushback. Even among longtime liberals, there's a growing sense that the cultural direction has gone too far into identity politics, celebrity influence, and ideological obsession. And when that starts happening inside the same group that built the system, it creates tension that can't be ignored. Because now the question isn't, do conservatives disagree? The question is, what happens when even people inside the system start breaking away from it?
Reason why we sometimes separate boys and girls. Boy Scouts now have girls in them. I think this is ridiculous. It's called the Boy Scouts. Do you have to always be fucking stupidly counterintuitive about everything? Girls, they also need time when they're just with girls. They can't be around these knuckleheads.
Yeah.
You look like you're angry about this.
No, I'm not angry. I'm just trying to think about it. And I'm like, this is really what I try to do. I try not to get angry about these things, Bill, okay? And I try to think, what I was thinking was, why would they do that? And maybe it's to take away stigma of gender. I don't know.
I'll tell you.
And this is where the conversation takes a sharper turn. Because the discussion isn't just about Hollywood anymore. It's about what's happening culturally underneath it. One of the examples brought up in this broader conversation revolves around emotional reactions to politics and how deeply they spill into personal life. Not just disagreement, but intensity, overreaction, escalation. People not just arguing over elections, but treating them like personal emotional shocks that completely reshape behavior. And that's where Maher's commentary starts to connect to a bigger cultural concern. The idea that political identity is no longer just political. It's emotional, it's personal, it's reactive. And when that happens, the line between disagreement and instability starts to blur. That's the tension being pointed at here. Because in this framing, you're not just dealing with different opinions anymore. You're dealing with people who experience political loss as personal crisis. And whether you agree with that interpretation or not, it raises a bigger question. What happens to a society when politics stops being debate and starts becoming emotional identity? That's the deeper breakdown this moment is hinting at. And it's exactly why the reaction at the Oscars didn't feel normal. It wasn't just disagreement. It felt like something underneath the surface got exposed.
Let's give him a chance. Come on, Bill. I'm a born and raised a New Yorker. Let's see what he can do,
Oh, okay. We can. Let's see what he can do. But we already know what he is because it's in his own statements and the people he hires. I talked about him. You say you watch it. You must have seen this. The first show was talking about this woman who is his herb. I said, how do I know he's a communist? Well, I'm reading between the lines when he hired someone who says, word for word, let's elect more communists. Okay, if you look at this, is not like something you have to really figure out. Elect more communists.
Yeah. And this is where the argument stops being just opinion and starts turning into data. Because what Maher is pointing at isn't happening in isolation. It's reflecting a growing gap between what political elites believe and what the public is actually saying. On one side, you have intense emotional reactions to elections. You have cultural outrage cycles. You have narratives that frame every disagreement as something extreme. But on the other side, the public response doesn't always match that intensity. Polling consistently shows a very different picture. A more divided but also more grounded reality than what you'd expect from the emotional tone online. And that's the disconnect. It's not just disagreement anymore. It's two completely different interpretations of reality operating at the same time. One driven by cultural institutions, media, and celebrity influence. The other driven by everyday political outcomes and policy support. And when those two versions of reality drift too far apart, something has to give. Because eventually, one side stops feeling believable to the other. And that's where the fracture starts to become visible. For decades, Hollywood operated like it had a direct line into public opinion. If celebrities spoke, people listened. If award shows pushed a message, it echoed across media. If endorsements were made, they were treated like cultural authority. But that influence is not what it used to be. And that's the uncomfortable shift happening right now. Social media changed everything. Because suddenly, audiences didn't just receive messaging. They responded to it in real time. They questioned it. They challenged it. They dissected it. And what was once accepted as cultural authority started to look like performance. That's why celebrity political influence doesn't land the same way anymore. It doesn't feel persuasive. It feels staged. And instead of building trust, it often creates backlash. So when Hollywood continues to operate like it still holds that influence, it creates a disconnect with audiences who no longer view it the same way. And that gap is exactly what Maher is indirectly pointing at. A system trying to maintain authority in a space where authority is no longer guaranteed. And this leads into the most sensitive part of the entire shift. Because over the last decade, a series of cultural and political ideas moved from the margins into mainstream conversation. Issues around identity, language, education, and social policy became central cultural flashpoints. But as those ideas expanded into everyday life, resistance also grew. And not quietly. Public opinion started shifting in measurable ways. Support and opposition split sharply on cultural topics that once seemed like consensus positions in elite spaces. And instead of leading to compromise or dialogue, it often led to escalation. People raising concerns were framed as extreme, and critics of the system were often dismissed rather than engaged. That's where tension builds. Because when disagreement stops being treated as disagreement and starts being treated as moral failure, conversation breaks down. And once that happens consistently enough across institutions, you don't get stability. You get backlash. Not overnight, but gradually, until suddenly, what once looked dominant starts to feel contested. And that's the stage this entire cultural moment is now entering. And now we reach the part of this conversation that almost nobody inside politics wants to say out loud. Because beneath all the public messaging, the speeches, and the media framing, there's a deeper concern building inside parts of the Democratic coalition. Not about losing one election. Not about one cultural argument. But about direction. For years, the party has tried to balance multiple ideological currents under one umbrella. Traditional liberals, moderates, progressives, and more radical voices all existing in the same political space. And that balance has been getting harder to maintain. Because the further cultural ideas move into the mainstream conversation, the more tension they create with voters who don't see themselves reflected in that direction. That's where the discomfort begins. Not necessarily in public statements, but in private concerns about alignment, messaging, and long-term appeal. And when even internal voices start asking whether the movement is moving too far ahead of its base, that's not a small issue. That's a warning sign of internal drift. Because once a coalition stops feeling unified in direction, every public moment becomes more fragile. Every statement becomes more reactive. And every cultural flashpoint becomes bigger than it should be. That's the underlying pressure building behind moments like the Oscars reaction. It's not just about one comment. It's about what that comment represents inside a much larger system under strain. So, when you step back from all of this, the pattern becomes hard to ignore. You have a cultural elite that is still operating with old assumptions about influence. You have media and entertainment systems that are no longer guaranteed authority. And you have a political coalition that is increasingly split between where leadership is going and where a portion of the public is heading. And in the middle of that, moments like Bill Maher's Oscars reaction don't look random anymore. They look like pressure points. Small moments where the tension inside the system becomes visible. Because when even longtime insiders start sounding uncertain, critical, or openly questioning the direction, it signals something deeper than disagreement. It signals strain. And that strain doesn't disappear on its own. It builds. It spreads. And eventually, it forces a response from everyone involved. That's why this moment stood out. Not because of what was said alone, but because of how it landed. Silence in a room like that doesn't mean nothing happened. It usually means something hit too close to ignore. And now the real question is simple. Was this just another overhyped media moment? Or is it a sign of something much bigger shifting underneath all of this? Because if even voices from inside the same ideological space are starting to question the direction publicly, then the conversation isn't going away anytime soon. It's only going to get louder. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you see this as a normal cultural disagreement, or the start of a deeper breakdown inside the system? And if you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe, because we're just getting started on what's really happening behind these moments. Until then, thanks for watching.